Across the known galaxy, the Nigma Empire was feared. Their fleets controlled star systems. Their words ended wars. Their power was never questioned. To the Nigma, Earth was nothing more than a small blue planet at the edge of the map. A young world, loud but weak. A species that fought itself more than its enemies. When the Galactic Council announced that humans would present their latest creation, many leaders did not even attend. But the Nigma Empire came. Not out of respect, but out of curiosity. The humans arrived without ceremony. No golden ships. No massive armada. Just a single dark structure floating in space. It was called a prototype. It did not shine. It did not glow. It did not look dangerous. The Nigma commanders watched the display and then laughed. Their laughter echoed through the council chamber, broadcast across dozens of star systems. "This is Earth's answer," one Nigma general mocked. "This simple machine?" Other empires whispered among themselves. Some were confused. Some were embarrassed for the humans. The prototype had no visible weapons. No massive engines. No sign of advanced armor. Compared to Nigma warcraft, it looked unfinished. Almost fragile. The laughter grew louder. Then a human representative stepped forward. He did not shout. He did not argue. His voice was calm. He did not explain how the prototype worked. He did not defend its design. He gave only one sentence. "Do not challenge humanity." The room fell quiet. Just for a moment. Then the laughter returned. Stronger than before. The Nigma Emperor himself spoke. "Is that a threat?" The human shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "It is a warning." That single word changed the air in the chamber. Some leaders felt uneasy. Others ignored it. The Nigma Empire ignored it completely. To them, warnings only came from the weak. And humans looked weak. After the meeting ended, the Nigma fleets began to move. Not for war, but for a lesson. They would show the galaxy what happened when a small species tried to stand tall. On Earth, there were no celebrations. No speeches. No emergency alarms. Human cities continued as normal. People worked. Children played. Satellites watched the stars in silence. The prototype remained where it was. Still. Quiet. Unchanged. Observers from other worlds noticed something strange. Humans were not preparing for battle. They were not calling allies. They were not begging for peace. They were waiting. Far across space, Nigma commanders smiled as their ships advanced. They remembered the laughter. They remembered the simple machine. They believed the story would end quickly. But they did not understand one thing. Humans never explained their creations. Not because they could not, but because explanations were never needed. As the first Nigma fleet crossed into human space, sensors flickered. Systems hesitated. And for the first time in centuries, a Nigma officer felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The laughter that once echoed across the stars began to fade, replaced by silence. And silence was where humanity was strongest. The galaxy expected fear from Earth. They expected panic. They expected humans to react. But nothing happened. Days passed after the council meeting. Then weeks. Human space remained quiet. The Nigma Empire watched carefully. They searched for signs of weakness. Hidden fleets. Secret weapons. Desperate alliances. They found none. To the Nigma, this silence felt wrong. Every empire prepared when threatened. Every species showed fear. Humans showed nothing. This was not courage. The Nigma believed it was ignorance. They studied human history. What they saw made them laugh again. Humans were a broken species once. They fought wars on their own planet. They damaged their world. They almost destroyed themselves. Again and again. They came close to extinction. Yet somehow, they survived. The Nigma analysts called it luck. Nothing more. What they missed was the pattern. Humans did not survive by strength alone. They survived by learning. By adapting. By preparing for problems before they arrived. On Earth, the leaders met in quiet rooms. There were no speeches for the public. No dramatic announcements. They spoke in short sentences. Simple plans. Clear outcomes. The prototype was never discussed in public. Not because it was secret, but because humans trusted it completely. In deep space, a small Nigma probe crossed into human territory. It was not an attack. Just a test. The probe sent data back to its fleet. At first, everything looked normal. Then signals weakened. Navigation drifted. Timestamps no longer matched. The probe did not explode. It did not shut down. It simply became lost. The Nigma commanders blamed a malfunction. They sent another probe. Then another. Each one vanished into confusion. Not destroyed. Not captured. Just disconnected. Still, humans said nothing. Other empires began to notice. They watched the border of human space carefully. They felt something unseen. Something heavy. Some asked humans for answers. Humans replied with the same calm words. We warned them. This angered the Nigma Empire. Warnings without explanation felt like insults. They believed humans were hiding behind mystery. Trying to look powerful without real strength. So the Nigma decided to act openly. Not with full war. But with pressure. A fleet moved closer to Earth. Large enough to be seen. Small enough to avoid blame. The message was clear. Submit. Or step aside. On Earth, sensors detected the fleet. Military systems tracked every ship. The prototype responded on its own. No alarms rang. No missiles launched. The prototype adjusted. Quietly. Without orders. Deep inside Nigma ships. Crew members felt strange delays. Controls responded slower. Screens showed data that did not agree. Engineers worked harder. Officers shouted louder. But nothing fixed the problem. The humans still did not speak. That silence began to feel heavy. Like a shadow following the fleet. For the first time. Some Nigma commanders questioned the laughter. They remembered the warning. Not loud. Not proud. Just calm. Do not challenge humanity. And slowly. They began to understand. Humans never explained themselves. Because explanation was not part of their defense. Preparation was. The Nigma Empire decided waiting was no longer acceptable. Silence had become an insult. And humans had given them too much of it. So the order was given. Advance into human space. Not as conquerors. But as teachers. The Nigma fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Massive ships. Heavy weapons charged. Shields glowing with confidence. To the galaxy, it looked like a demonstration of power. A reminder of who ruled the stars. On Earth, nothing changed. Cities slept. Light stayed on. Life continued. Human commanders watched quietly. No panic. No rush. No emotion. They did not issue commands to attack. They did not raise defenses. The prototype responded before anyone spoke. It activated without sound. Without light. Without movement. Across human space, something shifted. Not in space itself. But in the rules that governed it. The first Nigma ship reported a small delay. Weapons took longer to charge. Engines responded slower than expected. At first, officers ignored it. Large systems often had small errors. Then another ship reported the same issue. Then another. Communication between ships began to lag. Orders arrived seconds late. Sometimes minutes. Formation started to drift. Not enough to cause alarm. But enough to be noticed. Engineers checked their systems. Everything looked correct. Yet nothing behaved correctly. The Nigma fleet commander demanded answers. None came. Meanwhile, human sensors showed perfect clarity. Every Nigma ship was tracked. Every movement predicted. The prototype did not attack. It did not target weapons or shields. It did not destroy anything. It adjusted the environment. Within the Nigma fleet, time felt uneven. Some crew members felt moments stretch. Others felt them compress. Simple actions took effort. Complex maneuvers failed completely. Panic began to grow. Quiet at first. Then louder. The fleet tried to pull back. Engines responded too late. A destroyer clipped its own escort ship. Not from error, but from delayed reaction. This had never happened to the Nigma Empire. Command ordered weapons free. But target locks refused to hold. Systems argued with each other. No enemy was visible. No attack detected. Yet the fleet was losing control. From the shadows of space, the prototype remained unseen. Unmoving. It did not chase. It did not threaten. It simply existed. Other empires watched in disbelief. They saw the Nigma fleet slow. Struggle. Stumble. Still, humans said nothing. Finally, a message was sent from Earth. Short. Clear. This is not an attack. The words confused the Nigma commanders. If this was not an attack, then what was it? The answer came moments later. This is containment. Fear spread through the fleet. Not loud fear, but deep fear. The kind that comes when power means nothing. The Nigma realized their mistake. They had assumed strength meant weapons. They had assumed silence meant weakness. They were wrong. The prototype was never built to destroy fleets. It was built to stop them. As the Nigma ships finally escaped human space, damaged but intact, their pride was broken. For the first time in their history, the Nigma Empire had been touched. Not by force, but by control. And across the galaxy, one truth became clear. Humans did not need to prove their power. They only needed to let others experience it. The laughter that once defined the Nigma Empire was gone. Replaced by something far worse. Respect. The Nigma fleet retreated from human space. Not in victory. Not in defeat. But in shock. Their ships were intact. Their weapons unused. Yet something inside them was broken. Across the galaxy, questions spread. What had humans done? Why had no battle taken place? How had the Nigma Empire been stopped without a single shot? The Nigma High Council demanded answers. Engineers reviewed data. Scientists argued. Commanders blamed each other. Nothing made sense. Their technology was superior. Their weapons unmatched. Yet inside human space, none of it mattered. Only then did they realize. Humans had not attacked their ships. Humans had attacked their certainty. On Earth, the leaders finally spoke. Not to threaten. Not to boast. But to explain. The message was broadcast to the galaxy. Clear. Calm. Unemotional. The prototype is not a weapon. Those words stunned every empire. If it was not a weapon, then what was it? It is a survival system, the human voice continued. It exists to make sure humanity endures. Humans explained their past. Not in detail. Not with pride. They spoke of near extinction. Of disasters. Of enemies stronger than them. They explained that humans learned one lesson early. Never fight fair battles. Never rely only on weapons. Instead, humans learned to control the conditions of conflict. The prototype did not destroy fleets. It changed the space they moved through. It made aggression inefficient. Dangerous. Pointless. To attack humans meant entering an environment designed to reject invaders. The warning now made sense. Do not challenge humanity. Was not a threat. It was advice. The Nigma Empire understood too late. Their mistake was not invading. It was underestimating preparation. They had believed power was visible. Large ships. Bright weapons. Loud commands. Humans believed power was quiet. The galaxy reacted quickly. Some empires praised humanity. Some feared them. Others stayed silent. Treaties were rewritten. Borders adjusted. No one wanted to test the prototype again. Within the Nigma Empire, change began. Commanders spoke with caution. Leaders questioned old beliefs. They realized survival was not guaranteed by dominance. It was earned through understanding limits. Humans did not expand their territory. They did not chase the retreating fleet. They did not demand surrender. They returned to silence. That silence now carried meaning. It was not emptiness. It was restraint. Across the stars, the message was clear. Humanity would not rule the galaxy. But they would never be ruled either. The prototype remained active. Watching. Waiting. Not as a weapon of war. But as a reminder. Survival was never guaranteed. It was protected. The galaxy did not forget what happened. Stories spread from system to system. Not as rumors. But as warnings. The Nigma Empire was still powerful. Their fleet still vast. Their weapons still deadly. Yet something had changed. They no longer laughed first. Within the Empire, silence replaced arrogance. Commanders spoke carefully. Decisions took longer. They had learned a lesson no battle had taught them. Power without control was fragile. Other empires adjusted their behavior. They stopped provoking humans. They stopped testing borders. Human space became known as neutral ground. Not weak. Not aggressive. Untouchable. On Earth, life continued as it always had. No statues were built. No victories announced. Humans did not celebrate. Because survival was not something to celebrate. It was something to maintain. The prototype remained active. Invisible to most. But felt by all who approached. It did not threaten. It did not chase. It waited. The Nigma Empire sent one final message. Short. Formal. We acknowledge the warning. Humanity replied with a single line. That was all it ever was. No insults followed. No demands. The conversation ended there. Generations later, new species entered the galactic stage. They heard old stories of a small blue planet. Of a quiet species. Some laughed. Just as the Nigma once did. But the elders always corrected them. Humans do not need to prove their strength. They already survived themselves. The prototype became legend. Not for what it destroyed. But for what it prevented. Wars that never started. Empires that chose caution over pride. The galaxy slowly learned a new rule. Strength did not always roar. Sometimes, it waited. And humanity waited well. The laughter that once echoed across the stars had turned into fear. Not fear of death. But fear of the unknown limits humans refused to reveal. In the end, humans did not conquer the galaxy. They did not rule it. They simply proved one truth. Never challenge a species that built survival itself into its design.